over and over and over. But yeah, that was a really good. He was a very good comedian that was addicted to drugs, but he made it out. But unfortunately, he went back. We don't know
Yeah.
why. We don't know. We don't know what
Yeah.
the reason, but we do know that drug addiction is a disease.
He killed
Good
himself.
morning. He killed himself, committed suicide. Good morning, everybody. You're tuned in, or this morning's recovery radio show is going to be. The title is "If Not Now, When?" And when I say that, I mean if you're not going to vote now, when are you going to vote? If you're not going to participate in your own recovery from substance use disorder, from drug addiction, when are you going to participate? So the name of the show this morning is If Not Now, When? Good morning, John Case. How are you this morning?
I'm doing good. I'm getting ready to play. Let me see if I can play this thing here. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Trying to get my act together here.
Yeah, so for nearly 4 years now, we've been laser focused on November 3rd, 2020, the day that Donald Trump could be voted out of office. Come on, Kid Mo.
All right,
Let's get it going.
Let me get the video here.
Yeah. I like my background. What is yours this morning, John? Let's see what
I haven't done my background yet. I'm trying to get up with these guys.
Ladies and gentlemen. Let's take it to the top, Facebook.
We have special guests joining the band tonight.
Come on now.
Blues legends Kev Mo and Todd Mahal.
All right, you got it there. See him?
Come on now, crank it up. All around the world. All around the world, there'll be peace all around.
There'll be joy all around the world.
Hey, if you got about $1,500.
Yeah.
Taj and Kev supposedly, and really supposedly headlining a healing food. Well, I don't know if they're going to get on it. You really got
Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. All right. All right, all right, all right, all right. 1, 2, 3. Hey, Kevin Moore. I love that, man. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Kevin Moore.
Yeah, Kevin Moore. Yeah. They call him Kevin.
Project name, you know. So.
Uh-huh. What's his full name? What's it so people can look him up?
Kevin Moore. But Kev, I think he goes by the KEB and MO, Kev Mo. You know.
Kev Mo. KEB
right. Yeah,
hyphen
KEB.
MO. Kev Mo.
Last name Mo, but I think his real name is Kevin Moore. I mean, I know that because Fanny he was in Chicago a lot when she was in school in Chicago. So she saw him or something, you know. But anyway.
Yeah. So let me just say this. Welcome to Recovery Radio this morning, everybody. But I want to start off with something. We're going to do a little housework here. John, can you tell us a little bit about? We're looking to hire someone to do what in terms of the
video processing, and in other words, we record the show, but there's probably a day's work to actually turn it into a little better production. Like, for example, right now we have the tape, if someone got it, would include you and me, you know, getting set up right and getting the sound right and doing that stuff. And then for a published show, you want to just cut that part out and, you know, start like maybe where we're at now or something like that.
Where we're at right now. And so this would, the editing of the show, what would be the finished product when a person signs on?
The finished product would have, you know, you could get rid of, first of all, anything that was extraneous that you didn't really want on the show. Okay. Second, you can put a basically some promotional template in front of it. You know, like for example, the video packages. The one I was telling you about. Who's behind you?
That's my cousin. That's my favorite cousin.
By the way,
that's my favorite cousin. Her name is Donna. Her name is Donna Boyd.
Oh, Donna Boyd. Okay.
She lives in Atlanta, Georgia right now. Hey, Puddin'. That's my favorite right there. That's her. That's Puddin'.
And who is Rachel?
She's a tractor-trailer driver.
Oh, she is? Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, that's what I say. Wow.
She's drinking at the end of the day, I assume.
Oh man, that girl can sit in the Oval Office and she can help you carry your refrigerator down the steps if you'd like. Or
Right.
either she'll get a bunch of fellows to do it.
Yeah, right.
And
She wouldn't have
you
a
know,
problem. I don't
yeah,
think.
she wouldn't have a problem at all. But I love her, and I'm sure her and many of her best friends have already voted. And
Who is Rachel, by the way? Is that your
Rachel,
granddaughter? Someone named
no.
Rachel, who's related to you somehow, dialed into Fanny's show yesterday.
Oh, no, that's probably that's one of
I don't remember her last
my
name.
friends. Yeah, Rachel.
Anyway,
Rachel Moore, probably.
well, yeah, she stayed on for a while. She was talking with Fanny. You know, they were
Well, good.
so
Good. That's good. As long as I can get people to become active in the virtual community in terms of recovery and what can happen. And I really like the idea that the virtual background enables me to put photos of my loved ones up while we're having a conversation, or those who are struggling, those who are willing to come out of the darkness and put things on display, like your before and after picture.
So
coming
before
from drug addiction.
putting on the graphics before and after, the titles,
Yeah.
so people know what they're watching, you know, how to get a whole like information about the producer or the host or whatever, and so that's these video packages give you lots of tools to do that with, and but it's a tedious process a little bit to learn, okay, and the best way to do it is just to load up into one of these programs, one of the programs, and just start be willing to make mistakes, right? Frankly, okay, that's always the first thing about software is if you get ready to have it screw up and then you have to do it again, but if you learn the skill of video editing, I'll tell you what, there's a market out there, okay, a big one, because especially since the pandemic, everyone is doing Zoom, and producing shows is work. It is. It's more work than hosting them, okay, or it's as much work. I mean, if it's as much work. And then the third part is promoting it, right? I mean, the great thing about Facebook and Twitter is that you can promote to a single person without spending a dime, okay, can promote to a pretty large audience, 100 at least, okay, per person. Right. So if you have 10 friends and you send them, you share with them the video, for example, through Facebook or whatever, or YouTube, and you say, okay, why don't you share it with 10 more? Okay. Then if you have 10 people, then 10, now you're at 1,000 people, right? Without spending a dime. So I think that's somebody who wanted to learn the trade really would be learning how to do the editing, and then assist people with promotion on social media, namely make a list of people, share it with them, and remind them to share it themselves. Okay, you got to get it, that way, and then it gets around, and that's really the job. But it's three parts, right? So it's hosting, running the program, which you're used to, and second, editing, and third, promoting.
And third, promoting. Okay.
So that's the three-part
and that's kind of what we're doing this morning, I would imagine, promoting. Because
I did it
as we speak. So most of these pictures, will we be able to see these on Facebook? What I'm doing, what we do? Okay. So my premise, so my idea for Recovery Radio and Enlighten Radio going forward is that each one of these pictures that I'm posting has a story. There's a story. You see this guy in the middle?
What's the story of this one right here?
Okay, this one right here. Andre is son-in-law to my friend Wesley in the middle.
And Wesley's in the middle. Andre's is the big guy.
The big guy, and the beautiful person over there in that picture is me. So let's make that clear. So the guy in the middle. The story with this picture is the guy in the middle. I met him when I was 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
We had just moved to Newark. By the way, that picture is taken in New York just this past summer. and we moved. My family moved from New York. I mean, from Lynchburg, Virginia, to Newark, New Jersey, in the early 60s. Well, I was 9, so
Yeah.
you do the math. You do the math. But Wesley and I met in grammar school. We're still friends to today, as we speak. He and I started using heroin together at probably age 14. But the story behind that is that the friendship between the guy in the middle and myself has spanned decades. Um, and so, I mean, it's just a pretty amazing that out of the whole neighborhood of us guys, you know, he and I are probably the only two that are left to kind of tell the stories. And so, what I like about Zoom now is that I can put pictures up and spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about each picture. And what I can do is have guests come on, have you come on, bring your story with you, send me some photos. So I would be able to, John, doing a podcast, I would be able to post the pictures that are sent to me,
Right.
and they would show up on
I
this
haven't.
podcast show.
I haven't. Are you just using your share screen to do that? Is that what
Yes, yes, yes.
okay.
Well, no, I'm using my virtual
These are
background, and
virtual backgrounds.
I pull the pictures from my
Right.
photo album on my
And you can
phone,
use it. Right.
right on my
I
phone.
haven't
You
done
just
that
take,
yet. I just use this
yeah, man, this
thing
is
with a
cool.
beat,
This
you
is
know, so
really
far.
cool. This is cool. This is cool.
That's a good
So,
idea.
and yeah, and you can, where the button that says none, when you click on it, and then
Yeah. You go
go
back to
back
your
to
whatever you're
you
doing.
go back to your pictures, and you see the plus button. The plus button lets you add. See. So there was
Okay.
so
I haven't done
Keisha. I think I had her just a moment ago.
that. Right.
I reached out to her last evening, but she didn't show. Not yet. It's still young. So you see the guy on the left hand corner, Peter
Yeah.
Westbrook. That's my wife in the middle.
Right.
Peter
I
Westbrook.
recognize her. Right.
Peter Westbrook is a Olympic champion fencer.
Really?
His mother is Japanese, his father is black. He grew up in the projects of Newark, New Jersey, and he went on to be a professional fencer. Actually, he won
I
bronze
just
medal.
I just lost
Hmm.
your video.
Okay, that's it. Someone was trying to call in. There we go. How's that? Is that back?
Yeah.
Okay, when someone calls in on the phone, so I have to figure out how to doing a broadcast, how to make sure no calls come in. So that's pretty cool. Now Peter Westbrook, he went to grammar school with my wife. He has a foundation in New York City. It's called the Peter Westbrook Foundation, and what he does, it's in Manhattan. Oprah Winfrey gave him $1 million probably 10 years ago,
Wow.
and he opened up this fencing school. Well, he already had the school. The foundation opened up. It's downtown Manhattan, right in the middle of the financial district. Peter Westbrook Foundation, and he has Olympic champions coming out of the the neighborhoods that are depressed. He goes in and gets kids and bring them out of the transitional schools and take them in. And these people are excelling in fencing. So I'm gonna get him on the podcast pretty soon, as soon
Now
as we can, finish.
now
But
speaking,
that's Peter Westbrook. Yeah,
let me ask you a question about that. Because so
sure.
by fencing, I mean is that anything like martial arts sword play, or is it classic?
Yeah.
Or,
Fencing is sword fighting.
yeah.
Fencing. Yeah, he was an Olympic fence. But see, his background is very interesting. His mother comes from a family of samurai
Oh my
in
God.
Japan, and his
Literally, I mean,
father.
really. And oh wow.
And so the backstory is basically always the best story. And so my friend Peter Westbrook, his mom, who lived in Newark, New Jersey, she was getting on one of the buses in Newark, the public transportation, and she said something to an individual, a woman, about the her child. Something was going on with the child. Anyway, the woman took offense. And so as Miss Westbrook was getting off the bus, the woman kicked her in the back, old lady, and the woman died as a result. So that's kind of what the content and the character of the content can be on Recovery Radio.
Was this who kicked her? I mean,
A woman, some woman. They arrested her. She's in jail as we speak. But yeah, his mother died because of, because of
Jesus.
she was an Asian woman, and she lived in the projects. I mean, serious projects called the Prince Street projects, or
Yeah.
I don't think they was in Prince Street projects. You can Google that whole area and see they've since demolished those projects. But that's where he grew up. And so Peter Westbrook came up, and you can look at him and see that his eyes, you can tell that he's got some Asian in him. Well, anyway, he was a black and Asian man, had a Japanese mother. I think he got two sisters that grew up in that area, and his father was black, and his father was involved in alcohol greatly, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Peter will correct me if I'm wrong, but
yeah,
we're friends, and he knows that I've only gotten really partial tidbits of his life story. So, and the woman that my wife is currently taking care of as a home health aide was their grammar school teacher. Those two, my wife and him, and there's many others, but my wife kept all the photographs. But this lady that my wife sits with in Hoboken, New Jersey, sometimes she was Peter's Catholic school teacher, and he wrote a book. It's called Harnessing the Anger. I cannot leave that out. The book, Peter Westbrook, is in all the libraries now. And what he did was, because he was such an angry person growing up in the projects with all these challenges, he was angry a lot, failing in school. So his mother sent him to a Catholic school that taught fencing. And the teacher down there was a sensei, was a samurai person, had that background. Anyway, so he took Peter in. Peter's mother told him that if he learned to fence, that she would give him a nickel each time he went to a fencing class. And when he got in the fencing class, he excelled to the point where he was a bronze medal winner. And so, fencing is a European sport. Mostly, and it was so that's the backstory, John. Very interesting how he overcame these things and went on to be the person that he is today.
How old is he?
Peter is probably 64 or 60, right. Maybe 65. I know him and my wife are basically same age, and she is.
Hey, the fellow that was your friend from 9 years old, did he also serve in Vietnam or in the military?
No, he served in prison. We all, me and some other people went to prison. I went to Vietnam, and he started robbing banks.
Right. Okay.
So he went. I think he went to he went to prison. Wesley went to prison. He did probably 21 years. And,
mackerel, really?
Yeah. And he got out, and now he's prominent. He's working. He works for the water filtration for New Jersey. His job is right next to the Lincoln Tunnel, actually. Holland Tunnel, yeah. And so he got out, and so the struggle was still there, because if we look at it, like the title of the show, if not now, when? When do you move beyond recidivism? Well, he did. Wesley did. I guess that 21 years just took all the air out of him. But bank robbery. And it was all the mitigating circumstances was drug addiction, heroin addiction to be exact.
Sure.
And so people escalate. So that's proof positive that drug addiction, drug abuse is a disease that it's progressive. And unfortunately, it progresses downward. Someone on social media was asking a question this morning as to whether they could continue to use methamphetamine and do it successfully.
Oh boy.
And so that was a question. He said, I know it's a dumb question. And somebody responded back, you think? But check this out, John. But there was other responses from the community that believes that we should legalize, drug use for people that want to keep getting high, that we should legalize it. And they were trying to tell this person how to use successfully.
Well,
the
places where it's the places that, I think legalization, first, not sending people to prison for drug abuse is number one. Okay. There's no fix if you keep sending people to prison. And especially if it's a medical, it's a medical problem, really, fundamentally. And well, it's also a social problem, I suppose, because people get high because there's nothing better to do in some cases. I know that was me in the 60s. I used to, I was indulgent. I didn't do heroin, but I had two friends that did, and anyway, but the thing that broke me out of it was I was sitting in a basketball game at the University of Buffalo. Okay. And it was I think I've told you this before. It was right after the Olympics when the fellows raised their hand. I don't remember their name, and they got a lot of grief for it. Mexico. It was in Mexico. And anyway, the people on the basketball team, I've told you this before, but they were, the African Americans anyway, were not allowed to change their major from sports if they were on scholarship.
Oh, because they were on scholarship.
They were on scholarship, but it was only an athletic scholarship. They weren't allowed. If you wanted to change your major and do history or physics or whatever, you couldn't do that, and so, and it pissed everybody off, right? That they couldn't do that. And so in the middle of at halftime in the basketball game, they didn't leave the court. They raised their hands, and it's the same as the fellows in, they raised their fists, same as the fellows in Mexico. Well, apparently the cops had been tipped off that there was going to be a riot, at the basketball game. There wasn't a riot. These guys just was being silent, really, for whatever the break is. Was it like 10 minutes? And in comes, 50 armed SWAT team dudes, cops, right? And with clubs. Right. Just running through and places filled with students, right, in the stands, and then the players are on the court, right? Well, it was insane. So we all try to get out of there from the back door, and we're running around, and these guys have shotguns filled with rock salt cartridges. They start shooting people, that were running away. Like me, I got shot in the back, with it. And, I thought I was, hey, I'm killed.
Oh, you did take a slug in the back?
Yeah. And I felt it knocked me down, and but about 10 seconds later, I realized I wasn't dead yet. So I wasn't hit with, a real shotgun. But this cop comes right up behind me, points this shotgun right at my head, and he says, or this rifle that shot, it wasn't a shotgun. It was kind of a shotgun, looked like, but it shot these kind of cartridges. And it says, next time I'll kill you, you effing whatever, that kind of thing. That was a wake-up call. I gave up drugs and moved on to revolution. So I think you would say, if not now, when. And it's always a personal question, right? Someone runs into a brick wall and over and over again, and you find you want to find a way out, right? And it becomes just a big motor. Sometimes it's just necessity, right? You get in a situation where you can't eat or sleep or do anything, and you got a choice of killing yourself with drugs, basically, or if you find some friends that want to raise hell, which I found, and You did that. So we organized a strike
Mm-hmm.
at the campus over that incident, and we shut the whole thing down for 3 months.
Oh.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
in '69,
Wow.
and
That's around sometime around Kent State, right? When was Kent
that's
State?
right now, right during actually, same
Mm-hmm.
time, same issue. It was a combination of the war and the civil rights thing
Mm-hmm.
kind of together. Buffalo had right before I got there in '68, there had been I mean, for all the usual reasons, but both poverty, people coming back from the war, drugs, the fact that the police force in Buffalo was entirely either Irish or Polish people, extraction people,
Mm-hmm.
and there wasn't a Puerto Rican or an African American or it wasn't anything else. Had zero representation. So I don't have to describe what that was like,
Right. Yeah.
and and the whole place just the university, when they came on and just started trashing the university, the cops
Mm-hmm.
did. That was enough to
Mm-hmm.
in the end we put 10,000 people in the streets.
Oh my goodness.
Buffalo's not a very big
I
place.
wonder how many of them still out there or they've passed on.
We had a demonstration that was so big that for that town,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was just a but what did they do? Did they really change anything? No. What they
Yeah.
did was they put together a grand jury and started indicting, about 50 different individuals, me included.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay. Yeah, that's when the Black Panthers was coming up and coming, huh?
it was after there was a riot. Someone called it a riot. It was probably a police riot. It was right before I got there in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a chapter of the Black Panther Party organized that raised a lot of hell, about it. And but they just started indicting everybody, and the guy in the Black community that was they targeted was named Martin Sostra.
Mm.
And he ran a bookstore that had a lot of liberation stuff from Africa, and a lot of just all the stuff that was being published then, the magazines and the newspapers that were there was kind of a lot of activity. And when Angela Davis got arrested, for the conspiracy to kill that judge, in California, that became a big issue. And her sister, I think her name was Fanya. I think that's her sister's name. Anyway, she came and gave a speech at the campus right in the middle after the riot thing had started.
How did that work out?
Oh man, it was big because Fanya is a good speaker too. I mean, she's not quite as cerebral as Angela, but she was a little more fiery actually. Angela used to come when I met her later, and used to come to meetings with she always smoked a pipe.
Yeah.
She had a Sherlock Holmes, one of those really weird.
Angela Davis, powerful woman,
Davis,
powerful speaker, powerful woman.
And she just got one of the an award, something like that, recognized as one of the 50 greats or something like that.
Yeah. I saw that.
I bet she was
African American women, the greats. Yeah. They're coming up with some sort of Netflix or HBO something.
I think so.
With that, I believe that's correct.
Boy, yeah, that's for sure.
Sure. Hey, John. Today is Tuesday. 7 days from now, the fat lady will be singing. Now, following that Wednesday, the fat lady will have sung, I guess, unless they are counting votes far into November. I don't know how long that's going to take, but I'm curious to know. They say it ain't over until the fat lady sings. Well, Tuesday, I think she comes out of the green room and makes her. What kind of introduction can we give her on Tuesday in our show? I think we could. People are really gonna. We can wanting to weigh in. I know I would I'm going to be weighing in with you on Recovery Radio Tuesday morning. Will we be doing a show, or are you going to have to be at the polls
No, I'm going to
breaking up fights?
do the show.
What are you doing? You're going to do the show?
Try to vote this week.
Ah,
Really.
yeah. And if you get a notification on your phone that you have to run out and go up there and break up a fight, you and Sammy and some of the others, I'll hold the show down because
okay, we'll do that.
I think that the fat lady will begin to sing on Tuesday. She's getting ready now, and we can help her get dressed in the right and the proper clothing, but we have to go to the voting booth in order to make our suggestion as to what the fat lady should sing and how long she should sing. You know, we start working on that. That's if she's going to be singing in our favor. But I believe that we don't have it locked down yet.
No.
But it looks a lot more promising than it did 4 years ago in terms of whether we're going to be occupying. Because 4 years ago, I think we just underestimated this guy, because I certainly did, because around this time 4 years ago, I was saying, man, there's no way in the hell that this man can become president, not the president that I expect in the United States. I mean, African Americans and people of color and poor people have gotten a raw deal from both parties, as long as I can remember, in terms of how it affects everybody, because it never made it down to me. And when the Democrats got in there, stuff really never, some of it made it down to me. Like I was able to buy a new pair of shoes and stuff once or twice a year rather than just once a year. You know, and so a lot of things came about, but all that we're expecting with this new regime, or this change that we're hoping for in the White House, we have to, after the fat lady sings, then the work starts, because we got to hold the feet to the fire of those candidates that we choose if they win. We got to still hold their feet to the fire, because when we sit back and get comfortable in our new space, then they start to sit back.
Oh, the big lobbyists never get comfortable, you know.
They don't get comfortable, right?
No, they go right after it.
Yeah. So,
well, I think the test in Jefferson County is going to be one. I mean, Sammy is expected to win.
Mm-hmm.
I hope she does. And the guy that's running against her is, I don't think anybody knows. So I think she'll probably, I don't know him. I never heard of him. And he's not being very active.
Right.
So I don't think, and she's very active. And so I think the worst that's going to happen to her is that she's the target of all this third party right-wing, money that comes in. And then, I learned from one of the Republican candidates that ran maybe 5 years ago locally. I saw signs trashing his opponent all over the county. And I asked him one time, I says, all that stuff is bullshit, and you know it. Okay. He says, he claimed to me, I didn't do any of that. He says, some third party put a lot of money in advertising in for me, and that's what they did. So he claimed, he wasn't responsible for the, okay, whatever. And, but now, and the other race now that's important is I think is a test, is Pete Doherty against Patricia Rucker.
Yes.
Doherty's the sheriff, and we generally.
And I met Patricia 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I met her 4 years. Very condescending.
Phony.
Yeah, and
very upper class.
I saw where you took issue with Jill a couple of weeks back when she was saying when she said, "Oh, finally somebody gonna." Something she said, and what about Obama? Something Jill said, and then said, I said, yeah. So,
well, Tony.
Tony Russo.
Yeah, he said, why does Larry Bish asked, why does everybody hate Obama? Or some people hate Obama, and of all the people that chime in, Tony chimes in, well, with a whole bunch of things. but most of them, to me, I looked them up. The charges, like he said, oh, Obama put kids in cages too.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't. He actually,
No, he
through
didn't.
his administration, they built some cages, but they didn't put any kids in them.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, it's one of those things, right? And or
Yeah.
like he didn't do anything for working people at all. I said, well, he did pass the Affordable Care Act, and that's not nothing. I mean, it's not,
That's
full,
not nothing. That's right.
not
That
Medicare
is a
for
whole
all,
lot
but
of something. That's
that's
a
not
whole lot of something. But see, I think,
and
yeah. I think that some people uh, kind of forget, the color of their skin, helps them decide a lot of things. And because they think they're right is because they're angry about how black people have been treated. And then you forget that us being treated when you was a kid, us being treated, you benefited from it, even though you didn't know it. Maybe, I don't know.
true.
Some kids do now, and you took advantage of that, your white privilege.
That's right.
And so my question. So this from me, a black man that grew up in in the streets, and but um, the most of the people who are coming around, like yourself right now, what happened when you was a teenager? Do you remember any of the privileges that you were afforded
Oh,
because of the
sure.
color of your skin?
Absolutely.
But now we're all coming together and everything, but we can't just say, okay, man, Obama didn't do nothing, and here you are, a white man, saying that. I, and, and I take issue with that. But Obama did something. He got in the damn White House.
That's
That's
right.
what he did. He got in the White House when it was illegal for us to learn. I wanted to look up. Remember, they would always say, and I adapted to this too: ignorance of the law is no excuse. And I'm trying to figure out uh, why was that law enacted before it was against the law for us not to be ignorant, or was that law or was that phrase enacted after they said it was okay for us to at least read books?
That phrase is old.
Or so yeah. So we that phrase is very old, isn't it? And I wonder what the etymology of it is. But I looked it up and I saw where the meaning said was came out of the judicial system about the ignorance of the law is no excuse. It's not a defense that you're ignorant of the law.
It,
That's why, yeah, I
uh,
did what. So if it's ignorant, I mean, so if it's against the law for me to pick up a book,
right.
then why? How do you expect me not to be ignorant of your laws? I'm going to always be ignorant of your laws. So when I decide to look at your books and you say, okay, it's no longer against the law for you to read these books, right? So I start to read the books, but the people who are usually my opponents in a court of law have been reading these same books 100 years ahead of me.
You remember
You know,
I went to had a buddy, he was charged in the riots and stuff in Buffalo, I remember, and I went to the courtroom, and they initially had charged him with murder because there was an accidental death that took place, and
mm-hmm.
he didn't really have anything to do, but they charged him with murder, and he was African American too. I remember I went to the trial, and we were sitting there together, or I was sitting right behind him, because the SDS had raised some money, and we got a lawyer to help us, even because we had about 100 people charged, and nobody had any money for lawyers, and so we pulled together and got one, one lawyer, and he was there. But the first thing he did when we were in that courtroom is that he goes over to the prosecutor. The man is trying to put this man, in jail for forever. And they're sitting there, just shucking it up, about law school days and how, well, being very cordial and collegial with each other. And you look at that and you say, oh, Mike, this is the guy you're is trying to kill me, and you're kissing him.
Yeah.
So that's the lawyer, that's the legal profession though. So it's
it's like
you get somebody in a court and you say, did you do this? Yeah, I did it. well, that's against the law. Well, I didn't know it was against the law. And, so it's an old, goes all the way back to Britain, legal principle about the ignorance, even though it's stupid because even back in England, 200 years ago, 10% of the people could even read. All right. In the United States, when did literacy get past 10% in the United States? Well, not till about 1850, 60, something like that. It started, everybody started reading their Bible, right? And so they got a little bit literate, right? But that, you go into a courtroom and someone's passed a law, you have no idea what's going on. So it's, I think in a class structured society, or racially divided society, which is kind of another version of the same thing. And it's you have to there's no liberation until you can build a powerful enough movement to and actually there's no liberation until the old system breaks. It has to break.
It has to break.
It has to break. When it falls apart, then everybody has to put it back together. And it turns out that the rich by themselves can't put it back together.
Right.
They have to have a base, and there is no base if it's been ruined. We're headed to that. My personal opinion, we're headed that way.
What about the local elections in your neck of the woods?
Well, that's what I mean. If Pete Doherty wins, that'll be that will be a sign that the county, Jefferson County, has made a switch from Democrat, from Republican to Democrat at an important level, because the state Senate races tend to be harder fought than the delegate races. Now, Sammy's running from Charlestown, basically. She's not, if she was running in the south part of the county, where all these Republicans, like Cabletown down there, that's all these right wingers are voting. They're from there. Okay.
What about Shepherdstown?
Shepherdstown's very liberal. It'll vote Democratic. I mean,
all right, that's a good one.
They're they're liberal, especially they're mainly liberal on the environment, though, to be truthful. But for now, that's going to bring them in. They're going to vote against Trump, and they're going to vote against the Republicans because of that. So
I know Berkeley Springs is definitely going the other way, huh?
That I was told by my son's girlfriend, who lives up there, and she's went to the vote yesterday or day before. And she says the line is really long. Now this is in Martinsburg, because I think Martinsburg itself will probably vote Democrat. Okay, but the county probably not. West Virginia's got a problem. I mean, if the Democrats win, I'm sorry that Governor Justice is what do you used to call it? Talking through a tube to the president. Okay. His little gravy train is going to be done.
So I wonder how
the Democrats will owe West Virginia absolutely nothing. Okay. Nothing. And anything they do for West Virginia will be, whoever's running the state is going to have to beg for it. All right. I mean, because, look, let's don't kid each other. The anger and the hostility on all sides here has grown unbelievably.
Exponentially, I know.
Look, I mean, one of the first big questions that Biden will have is how many to prosecute for the 130,000 dead. Are these guys going to get off scot-free for what they have done?
Yeah, and the pharmaceutical communities.
Them, right. The Sacklers are the owners of it. So, I mean, where is justice? If you have no justice in what you're going to do, you're not going to bring the people with you, and as hard as it is, and I understand that, you can't go too far. If you go too far and criminalize your government, then you run the risk of a split that can't be fixed except by a civil war. Yeah. You're not ever sure who's going to win the civil wars. I mean, that's a gamble.
Yeah,
You
nobody else.
can think you
Well,
got
so
right on your side.
the last Civil War, let me ask you a question. The last Civil War, like I said before, you think that the Union um, won the
They won the battle.
physical war? Yeah, they won the battle, but the South won the narrative battle.
Well, they only half lost. I mean, that's a problem. What was the after the Reconstruction
mhm,
started out good. I mean, there were African American people elected to Congress from South Carolina right
mhm,
after, during that
mhm,
thing. And matter of fact, there's a great book by Howard Fast called Freedom Road. It's about
mhm,
it's really a very, it's fiction, but it's really pretty close to the history of one person who ran from South Carolina, was in the Congress,
mhm,
and and how Reconstruction was betrayed after Lincoln was killed, and because this guy, his Vice President Johnson, he was from the South. He was from the Missouri area, middle states, and he had no interest in liberating black people.
mhm.
Okay, and so it slowed down, and you got what you got. There you are. You go 100 years. You go to 1950, 53, or 54, and there's
Mhm.
Dr. King looking at the whole thing, and it hadn't moved. The needle hadn't moved a bit, since 1870.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
but remember that war. Think of, the problem is that war cost what 600,000 lives.
Wow.
It was I think the biggest known war at that time,
Mhm.
the death count. And you can imagine, and no one on either side. It's like Lincoln said in his inaugural address, the second inaugural, right before he was killed. He says, no one expected it. No one thought that it would be this bad. No one thought that it would be this long, this terrible,
Deja
this
vu.
relentless. No one thought.
Deja vu. Deja vu. Look at this pandemic. No one thought. No one's even paying any attention, but people knew. Um, what do you think about switching gears here, John, for a minute, about the criminal justice system in West Virginia? Because the Civil Liberties Union, American Civil Liberties Union in West Virginia, has launched a prison reform, or well, it's had launched a long time ago. But in West Virginia, they are uh, phone banking and getting people who are incarcerated to be able to vote. They're getting those
Right?
ballots in there, getting them out. And West Virginia didn't want that. Well, the administration didn't want that, but
Unfortunately,
Greg and the ACLU,
Whittington,
they
yeah.
pushed it through. They pushed it through, and so they're doing that as we speak. So the criminal justice system across the country, there is no incentive for them to change any of the operations standards in running, and the privatizing and all of that. It cuts into a lot of livelihood for a lot of people who are making a lot of money off of human flesh and human suffering. In this election in West Virginia, what are your thoughts about
I
prison
don't think.
reform?
I mean, I don't even think the Democrats have the right position, at least the leadership on this. I mean, you really need to provide a full employment program. I don't care what wage, whatever, and let everybody that's nonviolent out of the jail. I mean, and and destroy basically the base of part of the prison system. Now, I do have one thing is that if you're going to let everybody, that's why having work for everybody is so critical to solving any of these problems. Because if you say, oh, let's open the jails, right, and let everybody that's been like the dope offenses and busted for weed or all these tons of things, right, are bullshit. Or petty theft. Okay, you send somebody for 20 years for petty theft, but you got to have jobs you got to have work and something to do with people, and that's true with the prison guards that get laid off too.
Yeah,
Okay, if you open the jails, you're going to lay off the prison guards. It's the same thing with you want to turn a miner or a gas worker away from Trump. Well, pay them. You know, if you sit there and say, no, I tell you what, we're going to shut you guys down because it's in the public interest to not have coal or natural or fracked gas, like some of our friends in Shepherdstown say. Okay, every one of those guys are going to view you as an enemy because they're making a living wage, you know, doing natural gas and mining, right? And you're telling them, I'm sorry, you got to fall on your sword for the public good. You tell people that, I mean, they want to pick out a pistol and shoot you in the head right then. Okay. Just, you know, it's bullshit. You're not going to give me any other job. I'm going to be sitting here. I have to move my family to where, you know, to get work. Okay. Or just, or rob whoever's left, you know, to eat. And that's no good.
Rob whoever ever left.
Well, right. You know, you tell a miner that, you know, by the way, get rid of mining, but you're going to be able to pay for a 4-year college or a degree, or get another whole new trade, and you get a stipend for your family while you're going. They'll say sure.
Yeah.
They don't.
Hey, John,
they're not loving going down in that hole every day. Okay, they ain't loving that.
God.
Okay.
I just had a really funny thought. Wouldn't it be great if Clarence Thomas would turn tail like Jim Justice did? if Clarence Thomas, if he all of a sudden woke up and understand that in that administration where he's sitting right now, when the dust settles, he's still a nigger. That's what's going to happen. That's what they're going to say. I don't know if Facebook or anybody going to take that word down because it's probably incendiary, but I have to call a thing because people's lives are at stake.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about criminal justice reform because at some point, this idea has to reach the highest court in the land because they're going to push back on that because after prison, then what? Now, if we set up a system where people who are formerly incarcerated people have jobs and positions and opportunity when they get out of jail, we still got to deal with the disparity that is deep-seated, it's rooted in the whole apparatus. And so even if they were to say, okay, you guys can go, I mean, it's okay to give us permission to sit at the lunch counter, but if we can't afford the damn hamburger, why would we even go in that restaurant?
Right.
So no business as usual with justice, with criminal reform and everything. We have to start, we have to get to the root and cut that, you know, we got to get that infection out. And it starts in some places, man, that really needs the MRI.
That's a good one. I like that. Right.
To be able to see that, man, because we start saying, okay, we got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the whole Democratic machine in there, you know, but he needs an MRI because there's some problems in there that he can't even see. But we who are suffering under the kneecap of this old ideology, we're suffering under the kneecap. When there's no MRI, the people who are the oversight committee, let me add that in there, they won't be able to see what it is that we're suffering. And a lot of times they're not willing to see it, you know, because like your Dixiecrats.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think that the Recovery Radio and Enlighten Radio is the information show, and we have to stick to the facts as we know them, you know, and we stand corrected here on, you know, on this podcast. But I believe that Clarence Thomas and people such as him have to understand that all of your greatness does not matter when the rubber meets the road if we don't change the narrative.
So,
you know, go ahead, John.
You know, part of the, but you know, back in the 30s, all mass production industry that had just arisen after the automobile, you know, Henry Ford and all that. And you had in Detroit, you had Flint, you had 70,000 people
Mm-hmm.
working in the River Rouge works, for Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And 70,000 people. And they were working for next to nothing, and it was a bad situation, but there wasn't any other work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they all wanted to organize for 20 years. People tried. We need to organize this place, right? We need to organize the workers in this place, and we need to use that power to, do something about the terrible working conditions, right? But it took a very disciplined set of organizers to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and about half of them were communists, and half of them were other kinds of socialists and various kinds. But they pursued they organized people, into basically brigades almost. And they were able to say, look, we can't do this unless we act as one. It won't work. Okay. And we have to do our best to decide the best thing to do. But once we decide it, everyone has to stay in line. If we don't do that, we'll never find out whether we were right or wrong. They'll split us up and they'll send us in all the different ways. And if we don't stand together, now we may stand together and find out down the road that we stood together on the wrong thing. I mean, that can happen. Okay. But if you don't have some discipline, you can't find out anything. You got to have the organizations have to be built to have that kind of internal discipline, in terms of where they're going, and not be afraid. Now, that's a hard thing to do. But I know when things start to fall apart, as far as, if you're not rich, if you don't have a lot of means at your disposal, you don't have the phone number of a congressman that, will do what you ask him to do because you donated $10,000 for their campaign. You have to rely upon your own strength, which is fundamentally to say, we're going to shut it down if you don't stop this. That's your power. And we need to figure that one out. I mean, that's part of the reason I did this Talking Socialism show. So not so much to lay it on people, but just say, look, every time you talk about what the fix for a problem is, you're talking about a change in the power structure that is the people in the power structure are going to resist it because it's putting them, they're out.
Oh, yeah.
Once you make the change, they're not in anymore. They're out. And because you're not, their habits of, let's find a businessman who can make some money out of fixing your problem, right? That's kind of the way they look at it. And that's fine if you can find a nice businessman to hire everybody and but if you can't,
what then? What then?
What then? You have to be able to take it over and start from fresh, and that's a big deal. And it's
we need a big deal. We need a big deal. If not now, when?
That's right. I think that's the message, really. I think your message is right. If not now, when? And because from the minute this election's over, it's not going to take very long for people to figure out that just electing Joe Biden is not going to fix it. He is not a miracle worker. Okay. I believe him, and I believe Kamala Harris, that they know that there are deep, serious problems. Okay. They know that, and they know that they're big. But you could take your pick. You have foreign policy. You have, which is a mess right now, by the way, and very closely related to jobs. If your trade thing falls through, your economy is going to start to slide. You have the racial, catastrophe that's been exposed through all the murders that have taken place. George Floyd, only the most recent, right? Or I don't even think he's the latest, actually. Now, there's others, right? So
somebody yesterday.
And you have, how are you gonna? You got to say, we're not going to compromise. We're going to stop this. We're not going to talk about, maybe we need to do something about racism. We're going to actually enforce the laws against it and write new ones to exterminate it, or at least roll it back. And same with wages. People haven't had a decent raise since about 1972. In terms of like keeping up with the wealth of the society. If we were making the same ratio of wealth now, working people in 72 as we are now, we'd all be pulling down about $150,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's how it's all gone upstairs all over these years, most of it. And then you got these corporations now that they're global, right? They can park their money anywhere in the world if they want to, and they go, "Oh, you can't catch me." Well, you can, but you got to be able to say, have a regime that says, "Sorry, this is over," and it's what am I looking at there?
That's a guy. He had overdosed, and they tried to do the sternum on him. Oh, he fell on a radiator. That's what happened. But they also tried to do his sternum, hitting on his chest to bring him back to life, and that was the result. So when I got to him as a recovery coach and started talking to him about getting into recovery, he showed me his chest, and that was the result. And so I took that picture as a reminder of some of the family members of a lot of people who are struggling with substance use disorder, and the family member, just don't weigh in, or they don't care. Or this guy was basically homeless. He was hooked up with a bunch of other people, and they were in a house, and he got a hold of some fentanyl and died. But they brought him back with Narcan and took him to the emergency room in Berkeley County, West Virginia, and this was the result. And so I say, we got him together, got him walking again. And so when I took that picture, he was up and moving around. But now, because of the resources that were grossly misused in Berkeley County in terms of recovery and the response to recovery and the response to people's families who are in recovery, it's just horrible. It's atrocious.
Yeah.
But these are some of the the videos or the visuals that you come in contact with when a person is struggling with substance use disorder. But yeah, so like I said, this format with Zoom is has so much potential for people to be able to share what it is that they are experiencing in this country, and especially now with the COVID. No, I'm not going to say especially, including having to struggle and having to be able to make adjustments so that you won't actually die or starve to death or contract some other kinds of preventable diseases, and because of the funding and because of the administration and
Do you
because
have any data on
go
the
ahead.
difference between how many have died from overdoses over what period of time compared to we've had 20,000 deaths, 130,000 deaths from COVID? Is that something like that? Am I right?
Yeah, I'm not sure about those numbers in West Virginia,
but I wondered what the comparison is with overdose deaths over the same
well,
over some
we had
period of time. We should look that up because I'll bet that they're not that far apart.
Right. I would say so, John. Yeah, but the people that you ask, because early on, when I first started advocating and going down to Martinsburg and going to city council and reading a lot of the updates on the overdose deaths and what was going on, we were getting a lot of misinformation then, and that was because they were prefabricating these resources that were available to people. But actually, when I would send folk, they would just get a handful of papers saying that you need to go to this one and you need to go to that one, and it really does not work that way because for a number of reasons. But my point is that a lot of these pockets of behavior within the administrations across this country need to be targeted, and they need to be rooted out. and you have to do it one community at a time, especially the same way that they're going to contain this virus. I believe it's going to have to be like Governor Cuomo said, when a virus pops up and it's a cluster, you shut it down right away. Okay. And if it pops up over here, you shut that place down right away. You know, other places can open up, but when people are not being vigilant and not obeying or listening to the science and everything, this is what happens. We get these clusters. But then when you add drug addiction, when you add substance use disorder to that equation, it becomes more and more complex. Man, it looks like you just reached into a tree
I
and
just got
pulled
my.
the man. That is magic. I love that. What is
I
that? You
came
got
right into
Zoom.
the tree. My sister-in-law gave it
Yeah.
to me. It's the
See, you see all the possibilities, man, with
this is
Zoom.
my
And so people
this
that's listening, you need to come on here and put up some pictures. I'm telling you.
I
Because
gotta do that.
John, you killing it, John. I'm
Oh,
trying to
am I okay? Can you hear me?
yes, I can. No, I
Okay.
say you're killing it with the audio, man, because I'm listening to folk and they're just and we need in recovery, we need to be able to have video on display. We need to have video as a part of the recovery package for our folk,
Right.
because Medicaid uh, tells you that you can't get paid. And those are the people that are billing Medicaid for services unless they have a certain amount of 101 sessions, which include either audio but mostly video.
Yeah.
And our folk in West Virginia, the poor people, they can hardly even get audio
Right.
in
That's the
terms of.
phone call. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So how do you expect but Medicaid won't change its position on that, and I understand it. So then we go back to the particulars, the broadband in this election then in West Virginia. And I hope that they get an opportunity to reconstruct that broadband.
Well, unless the
And
Democrats win in West Virginia, that's not going to happen.
I know. What about Paula Jean Swearingen? If she gets
She's not
into
going to
all,
win.
you don't think she's going to move the needle at all, because West Virginia is definitely Republican all the way
Well,
across.
and she decided she didn't really seek much support. I mean, she won the Democratic primary, but I think she's trailing by a huge margin in the polls from against Capito. She alienated the Democratic Party leadership because she would not support Manchin and the governor Salango and I mean the guy that's running for governor because they're still connected to the coal industry in some respects, and she's got a very anti-coal agenda. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I like her. I sympathize with her position, but there's you're going to get involved in politics. You got to figure out how to win something, and if you can't win anything in the existing structure, well then okay, you need to agitate about its corruption. And do what you can. But the problem in West Virginia is you've got a lot of poor and frankly poorly educated people. And it's only it's under 3%. It's 97% white. Okay. And so you get
white.
poor and ignorant white people.
Yeah. Poor black ignorant people
who have
too.
been told that it's all the basically black people are the reason why they're poor.
That's why they're poor, and the Marines coming over the hill. Yeah,
always works its way around to that. Why don't you, you're really screwed up, and it's all these liberals that give all your money to black people.
That's the line they have, right? And it's garbage, but they don't have any other sources of information, and they're not. And it's not going to be fixed unless it breaks. You know, you
Yeah.
can't get people to change their mind until the thing just breaks. Oh, I can't go to the post office. My doctor, I had one, but he left town. You know,
Yeah.
uh, we used to have
Well,
a
well,
judge in the area, but now we don't have any judges. We only have one judge, and he could
we
care
only have
less.
one judge, and his name is, you know what? And Trump and the administration, the system, they got their hands on some gorillas because you were talking about something breaking. They got gorilla glue putting stuff back together. I mean, you still got a broken vase
It ain't going to go
or
back
broken.
together. You got to fix the fix.
You
It
got to
can't
get rid of
be
it. Put it in the
fixed.
garbage. How
You
you gonna
can't
fix?
have you cannot have the billionaires running the government and expect them to ever do anything significant for ordinary people. I
They're
mean,
not.
even if they want to, take somebody like Bill Gates. He would like to. He's a billionaire. I used to work for
Mm-hmm.
him. You know, he has a liberal point of view on. He thinks that somebody should do something about inequality, and he spent some money from his foundation, you know, doing
uh-huh.
some things about education.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember 3 or 4 years ago, we were Carol and I went. She's an economist, and we went to the American Economics Association. And that guy from France, who's very, very good about inequality, was his name, Thomas
Piketty.
Piketty. He was
Mm-hmm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
and the big shots from the former Bush chairman of the economic advisors was his name. He's at Harvard. They bait the guy Piketty because he's written this big book about how there's only one way to do something about the inequality, and that is you have to tax their wealth. Okay, um, and so he's getting a lot of grief about it, and
Mm-hmm.
he says, "Well, I had a conversation with Bill Gates, you know." About the wealth tax. And Bill said to me, I don't mind paying a higher tax rate on my income, but why would you want to tax my wealth? My wages are one thing, but the property I own is, well, why do you want to tax that more? And and Piketty says, well, Mr. Gates, maybe you're right, and because Bill was saying, I'm going to spend my money, and I think I'll make better use of it spending it than the government would. Okay, he says that. And so Piketty has a famous response to him. He says, well, Mr. Gates, yeah, you may be right. Let's suppose for a minute you are, and you are better at determining how to spend your money than the U.S. government is. Okay. Why don't we just stop taxes on billionaires altogether, since they're all so freaking patriotic that we can rely upon them to make the best decisions. So Gates, at that point, he's listening to Piketty. This is Piketty's version of this, and he says he stops, and he doesn't have a comeback, and he says, "Well, but what he was thinking was that the biggest problem with me, Bill Gates, doing good in the world." Is the bad billionaires like Mr. Koch or those people doing the bad stuff, okay? And so, but if I say that we're going to tax Mr. Koch because he's doing bad, I'm going to end up, there's no way to do that without me paying the tax too, because what are we going to do? Pick and choose among the billionaires about which one gets the tax and which one doesn't? And so he backs up and he tells Piketty, you may have a point. And because the point is that I can't fix it myself without letting the people that are my main enemies, these other bad billionaires, do what they're going to do. And that's a problem with these guys, right? It's why you can't base a government just on the prerogatives of billionaires. They can't fix it. They can't fix it without killing themselves. Okay, so so you can have some sympathy with these guys. Some of them that would like to do better, that hate Trump, for example. They do hate him. That have what do you want to call it? A more cosmopolitan attitude toward hiring people of different colors and nationalities and whatever. But better. But when it comes to taking apart the whole thing, why it's rigged, they can't. And I think that's a tough one for us. Okay, Bill Gates and Mike Bloomberg. Okay, both of them kind of in the same box there. They're probably paying for half of Biden's campaign. I mean, do you see the other day, Mike Bloomberg donated $100 million just to agitate in Florida for Biden. $100 million.
$100 million. Yeah.
One state. When Jack Kennedy ran for president, I think the combined Jack Kennedy and Richard Nixon money for the whole election, all 50 states, was $80 million. Just to give you a sense of 80 and now 100 million from one guy just in Florida. Okay.
Yeah.
These
so
guys,
if I went to them around the table when they were dispensing all this money, and I wanted to get in on it, which I'm a citizen here, it's an election. But if I wanted to get in on that deal and I only had $50, what do you think they'd say to me?
They would you'd probably never get to see them. You probably have to.
Wait, that's all I got.
You have to be filtered. You have to go through about 10 layers of advisors, employees. We ever got to
that's gonna kill my 50 right there.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't even get up to the polling place with $50. Oh man, this is
yeah.
crazy. But see, the information, John, is invaluable because come on, man, we got people that's running this country that's got their hands on that kind of money, just one or two individuals. Now here we got hundreds of people, and they still need $80,000.
They have to scramble to get the 50.
I got a text this morning. It was asking me for $5. I'm like, damn, I just gave 25. So if everybody just got out and voted, we wouldn't need all this money coming in. I mean, but what it is, we would, because they're doing it. It's just like we're doing on Recovery Radio with the virtual stuff right now. That's how it's being done. I guess when President Obama ran, that's when all of this started with the.
Well, he was very clever, about it. I mean, money from Wall Street, liberal Wall Street was. This is a good example, right? I mean, I'll give the Bill Gates example. Total supporter of Barack Obama, okay? But, Barack was still, he was in the mode. I mean, I the other day when we were on the socialism, you missed it. You were, because I had to do it an hour late, I remember.
Yeah, I had to run.
Carl Davidson was telling me how he's from Chicago. I mean, actually from Pittsburgh, but he spent most of his career in Chicago. And he knew Obama, who was a community organizer in his youth in Chicago. But he had an interesting observation. He says, Barack was, everybody knew he was gifted, okay? Everybody knew this, okay? And but he was he said he was a coalition builder, not a fighter, was his description of and we, you can see the types in communities, right? You get people say, I want to put something together that's going to win, and you say, okay, here's 5 different constituencies in the community or in the city or something like that, right? That they don't all agree with each other. They're not the same, but is there some way I can put together a thing that will link them and get them, that kind of thing. And that's a political art, right? That's an important political. If you're the kind of person that can kind of see that, and you listen to people, and I know where they're coming from. I know the trigger that will pull them, closer. And he had that gift, right? And he wasn't the guy that was going to go down and organize the giant demonstration, right then, but he was going to try to put together the coalition, and he proved to be effective at that. But it takes all kinds, right? And you can tell that from Obama when he gets into his preaching mode, right?
Yeah, he started.
He learned that on the street, right? He didn't learn that at Harvard.
No, he didn't. Come on, man. Josie, I love it. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, exactly, man.
You got to be kidding me. Come on, man. Let's be perfectly clear. Let's be clear. Let's be clear here. You got to be clear. And we're not clear. People are not clear. Because if they were clear, then the election would already be won if they were clear. If people were really clear about things, but people are laying back waiting for the Marines, like you said. You say,
Oh,
what, I'm gonna
yeah,
stick
right. The white
over
knight coming over
here.
the hill, right?
Yeah, and then you got the folks that say, well, I better not say nothing against them because they might win, and if they do win, I don't want to upset that apple cart because they might not let my apple stay in the cart. And so
Right.
they take a position like, well, maybe there was good people on both sides. Just maybe there was good people on both sides. I
They
don't
didn't
know.
mean it when they, right.
Yeah, but if she hadn't have been in the way, she wouldn't have gotten killed. Like the guy said, if they hadn't have been outside beyond the curfew, he wouldn't have got shot.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Come on, man. Hey, John, we are at 10:09, man. I really appreciate you because you don't give up on me, man.
Hey, by the way, I was going to make one last little story here. In
Yes,
Bolivar,
sir.
the little town of Bolivar, right here, probably doesn't deserve it, because they don't want to pay their own taxes. So I'm not sure they deserve to be a town. But anyway, back about 5 years ago, the racetrack, merged with they got the license to do table games,
Right.
basically, in addition to the horse races and the one-armed bandits, right? And so for 1 year, okay, they paid double their usual tax when they merged, some deal they worked out with the county commission. Now the Bolivar Town Council, they were under the impression that level of tax was going to go forever, and they could go ahead and spend a lot of money, in Bolivar on stuff that they wanted, and that life would never end. Okay, well, the next year, if they'd have read the stupid newspaper, they'd have figured out that that was a 1 year deal. So at the end of the year, they got no more money out of it. All right, and all of a sudden, they could not pay their police bill to Harpers Ferry. Now, remember, Harpers Ferry has a special arrangement because of the national park. The national park donates, I think, about 80,000 a year to help them, because you can't have a national park in a town that has no police force. There's some rule somewhere on that, Anyway, so Bolivar said, well, we're not going to pay for the police department. We'll just have the county, their deputy, come in. Well, so, and then they'll take care of us. But Pete Doherty and John Unger, were at the meeting. Okay. And they didn't say anything at first because it's not their meeting, right? And at the end, the mayor, this guy who's really a piece of, work, he says, so we're going to be needing to have the deputy, your deputy, come down here and handle the police work here in Bolivar. And Doherty looked at him and says, there will be no new deputies. And John Unger says, there will be no knight coming over the hill to save you. The state is not going to spend any money. The county is not going to spend any money on Bolivar than it already is. They don't have any money, And I remember the guy, he got furious, the mayor. He got furious. He's a Republican. He's a jackass. He used to run antique shop here in town. He had a lot of antiques, and he used to have, I went in there one time, he had a big Bush sign at the time, and I says, you don't want Democrats to buy anything here, right? Why you got that big sign there? But anyway, he idiot, just stupid at the, a conniver, smart in a conniving way, but a stupid man fundamentally. Okay. And he got furious at Unger and at Doherty, and that's when I thought that was a great line Doherty had. He says, people who aren't willing to raise the money themselves from their own community to pay for the services they want. I'm not sure they deserve it.
You know,
Priceless.
I mean, you know, these guys.
I like Pete. I like Pete Doherty. I hope
I like
he
Pete
wins.
too. You know, I don't want to pay any. But these Republican thing, I don't care what you do. I want all this stuff, but I don't want to pay a dime in taxes. If I pay taxes, I'm told all I'll be doing is I'll be giving it to black people. You know, that kind of thing. And anyway, it's a sickness. I'm sorry to go on and rant. But,
no. Go ahead, bro. Take it to the top.
You got to. You got to take this thing down. I wish I was younger, you know, and 25 years old and full of, you know, piss and vinegar still. But
yeah, but you don't want to get shot. You don't want to get shot, John. Because they're gonna shoot. They're gonna shoot people, man. I mean, it's obvious that people gonna get shot. Somebody gonna get shot. It's gonna be, and they're not gonna get stopped shooting.
You can defend yourself against that. I remember I had a campaign in Riverside, California, where it was almost all the women workers in this big plant that made resistors, you know, electronic resistors, and they had there must have been 800 people in the shop, and almost all women and almost all women of color. Not completely, but lots of different. They had Philippine, Mexican, African American, Asian. It was, you know, Southern California is a big mix, right? And we were going to win that campaign, and so they hired a bunch of thugs, okay, to run around and like destroy intimidate these women, okay, on the job with the most vulgar and vicious, you know, kinds of things, and so we were going to lose the campaign because the fear was mounting. People were really seriously afraid of this, right? And the way we neutralized it was we got a hold of a whole bunch of the husbands. And we say, this guy, one of the leader of this gangster group in there that the company hired, he goes by this convenience store every morning on his way to work. So we had, I think, about 25 of the guys who waited. When he went into the store, we all went in behind him. 25 of us with baseball bats.
John, not you, John.
No, I just organized it, you know.
Oh, okay. You put it together.
I talked to him. I said, you got to leave town. And he starts to get, you know, he was a tough guy. He was a big guy. You know, I says, forget it. It's not going to be a fair fight, pal. You know, you can leave now or we'll be back. We'll get you. So, and he left. He took off. He was looking at all those Mexican husbands.
A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, they wanted to kill him right then. You know, I was just trying to intimidate them a little bit, you know, and we did, you know. But that's because we had 25 husbands together. Right? I mean, 25 to 1. I don't care how tough you are, man. You're going to go down. So, and I think you got to have those that's what I mean by having forces of people that got the discipline, right? And they can take care of business. They trust each other. That's the key. Right. If you don't have that, then you're always going and asking the man for help.
Always.
You know, he might, but mostly he won't.
And if he helps you, you know, he'll probably reveal what it is that he's doing to the people who don't support you.
That's right.
Kind of give them a heads up, and it's all in secret. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of. Oh, by the way, the picture that you're looking at right now, John, before we go off, is Shakur Stevenson. He's an Olympic fighter from Newark, New Jersey. Newark's own Shakur.
Boxer or some other kind of fighter?
No, he's a boxer. I'm sorry.
Boxer, okay.
Yeah, he's an Olympic. I think he's featherweight, lightweight. He's small, but young man, very young man. He brought home the silver medal for America in the 2016 Olympics, I believe it was.
Wow.
And he's gone on to be professional, and he's also family to my wife. I think he's a first cousin, second cousin, something like that.
Boy, professional boxing though, that's
yeah. And so
you can't do that very long.
Yeah, but see, the pandemic has affected him and his family and our family greatly because he's not able to do what it is that he does
That's right.
You know, because once you start that lifestyle, it's not like, okay, well, something's going on, I'm gonna chill out for a while and pick it back up later on. Because in his profession, he needs to fight. He needs to be able to fight, actually fight. You know, not training all the time, but to actually be in a fight.
Yeah.
So that's another challenge. But it's 10:19 right now, John. It's really been a powerful show, man.
Well, I love talking to you, pal. Yeah, and we'll try to get I try to get better organized here when I get my machines fixed. And I spent all weekend, man. You know, about 25 hours, you know, trying to pull it all together. And now I got to send this stuff off today. So anyway, we'll try to get it. I'm going to send you this file though. Okay. And via Hightail, you'll get an email. Okay.
Okay. Hightail.
And I'd be interested to see how long it takes you to download it. Okay.
All right, man. So I'm gonna stay on your phone. All right, John. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care, buddy. I love you. Okay.
Love you too.
Be good. All right. Bye-bye.